Good evening, YouTube. This is Daywalker 225 XXXX, and tonight I will be discussing why I think that Chris Brown hasn't paid enough as far as for what he did to Rihanna. Let's begin. First and foremost, on the night in question, when Chris Brown brutally attacked Rihanna, he was a man, and granted he was a young man. A lot of people use the excuse that he was a boy. No, Chris Brown was 18 years old when he did that. So that being the case, actually he was 19, to be honest with you. But that being it, no wait, he was 20. He was 20 because it's been a year, so he was 20. So he was 20 years old. So if he's 20 years old, he wasn't a child when he did that. In the eyes of the law, he was a grown-ass man. Now, when you become a grown-ass man, as a man, when you're out with a female, it doesn't matter what female you're with. If it gets to the point where you're with her and you feel as though you have to put your hands on her, it's time for one of y'all to go. Either you need to go or she needs to go. But putting your hands on a female is always a bad way to go, no matter who's doing it. Personally, I've had to deal with an irate female or two. I've dealt with a few that, don't get me wrong, had they have been men, I would have put them on their back pockets. I would have just knocked their fucking heads off because, you know, they just were acting belligerent and stupid. And I'm not a big proponent of hauling off and decking a woman, but there's been a few times where I can understand why someone would want to. Not that that makes it right, and not that I've ever done that, but I can understand why someone would want to. But that doesn't necessarily mean that because you want to do something that it's the right course of action. Okay, but let's dig a little bit deeper. All right, first and foremost, you know, I've heard speculation and conjecture, you know, a bunch of different ways as far as for why Chris Brown got into an altercation with Rihanna that night. One of the most common ones was that he received a phone call from someone texting him, and when he got the text, Rihanna took the phone and slung it out of the window and grabbed the keys out of the car. And basically they got into it and commenced the fighting, and he ended up biting her and punching her in the mouth till she bled and choking her unconscious and leaving her on the side of the road. Yeah, great guy. Here's my thing though. Alright, for starters, Chris Brown is scum. And I'll tell you why he's scum. Because if I go somewhere with a female, I'm going to make sure that she gets home in one piece. I might not even like the bitch by the end of the night. But one thing I'm not going to do is leave her somewhere where she has to get back home under her own power. If I took her someplace, she's coming home via me. If we go out and we get into a big ass argument, I don't give a damn if we're throwing rolls at each other in the restaurant. It doesn't matter. I'm still going to make sure that she has cab fare to get home. I'll do that much for her. But at the same time, the thing is Chris Brown basically attacked this woman, choked her unconscious, left her on the side of the road, and didn't bother to even pick up a phone and call 911 so that, you know, he would at least know whether or not she was alive or not. No, he left the girl and didn't bother to check on her at all. So in my book, that makes him fucking scum. Now the other thing is too, personally, like I said, I've dealt with women that, yeah, they've gotten on my nerves to the point where, you know, had it been a guy that got on my nerves that bad, I would have just decked his ass. But with a woman, particularly an irate woman, you can't necessarily do that. Alright? And if she was acting that bad, all he had to do, as soon as it got to the point where they were arguing that bad, was pull the car over, turn the car off, pull the keys out of the ignition, and start walking. Get out, start walking. Just get the fuck away from her ass. If she's irate and belligerent and doesn't want to talk and doesn't want to listen, it doesn't do you any good to fight her, because all you're going to do is exacerbate the entire situation. If she's mad, let her cool off. I never talk to any female if it's to the point where I'm so upset that I feel I have to ball my fists up and haul off and deck her. I never get physical with women. And I've had plenty of reasons to want to haul off and beat a woman's ass. I mean, in my mind, she'd have been a guy, yeah, I'd have hit her. But because she's a woman, okay, she kind of get a pass. I'm going to just get away from her ass long enough to cool off. And once I'm cool, I'll go back and I'll talk to her like I got sense. But I'm not going to sit there and argue and fuss and fight with her and I'm upset. Because normally, most people escalate violence or escalate hostility. If you're already mad and you're yelling and you're screaming, and from there it gets a little bit more escalated. That builds, and then it gets to the point where you're pushing each other, or your hands in their face, and it gets a little bit further than that, and it gets to the point where you're knock down, drag out, fist fighting. And as a man, you should never fight a woman, not if you can avoid it. Now, don't get me wrong. If your life is in jeopardy and a woman is going to try and hurt you to the point where she'll kill you, then yeah, you got if she goes into the kitchen and pulls a butcher knife out, oh yeah, cold cock her fucking ass, or if she comes in wielding a baseball bat, yeah, lay her ass the fuck out. I'll be the first person in the world to say, yeah, defend yourself. Don't stand there and get hurt, but at the same time, if you can get away from her before it gets to that point, you should. Or at least that's what a man would do. Now, don't get me wrong, there's been a few times where I've had women get mad at me and they've decided to haul off and try and slap me, and there's a couple different things you can do when a woman does something like that. You can catch her hand. She goes to slap you, just catch her hand, and you caught her hand, bam. What's she gonna do? She ain't gonna overpower you. 9 times out of 10 she won't. You can B, dodge out of the way, or C, which is the option I generally hardly ever take, and that's just let them hit you and laugh at them. Hey, you done yet? Yeah. But as a general rule, I don't like getting slapped, so I normally just catch their hand. Or if they want to try and fight you, then the other thing you got to do too is just give them a big old bear hug and hold them until they calm down. You got to make sure you hold them tight, because they might do something like, grab you in your boys, and you'll be on the ground squealing like a little pig. You want to make sure you don't get grabbed down low like that, because they will grab you in the balls or try to kick you in the balls. So that's something to be aware of. Now the other thing is too with Chris Brown, like I said, I don't think that he would have put his hands on a man, not like that. Matter of fact, I know he wouldn't have tried to do that, because if he'd have put his hands on me like that, or if he'd have tried to haul off and deck me like that, I'd have broke his fucking hand. I mean, as a general rule, I don't go around putting my hands on anybody, and I try to be respectful to everyone, or at least as respectful as I can, and I also try to see from other people's perspective as far as the situation is going. Like, if I was in the situation that this person was in, what would I do? And I listen to people, and I also try to get along with them. But at the same time, Chris Brown needs to understand he has a mother, and he has females in his family, and by his own admission, he didn't want anyone doing that to his mother, but yet and still he did that to someone else's daughter. Kind of a contradiction in terms as far as I'm concerned, but that's my viewpoint, and that's how I feel about that. And please feel free to leave your comments and say whatever you want as far as the situation. DaveWalker225XXXX. And I'm signing out. Thanks for listening, YouTube. Later.